Trump authorizes deployment of 300 National Guard troops to Chicago. In my opinion, this is not a job of National Guard troops to do that little kind of job for national security, like within internal land. That's a work of the international police or the home police. My name is Mukasa. Welcome to our new channel. Come, support, like, share and subscribe. So let's proceed with the story and see what's happening in the US. Apparently at this time, President Donald Trump has authorized the deployment of 300 National Guard troops to Chicago to address what he says is out of control. The move came hours after immigration authorities said they faced off with protesters in the Democratic City run. Officials said an armed woman was shot after claiming she and others rammed the cars into law enforcement vehicles. State local leaders have for weeks criticized Trump's development plans and called in an abuse of power. Illinois Governor J.B. Prescott said Trump was attempting to manufacture crisis. The announcement comes as a federal judge in Portland, Oregon, temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deploying 200 troops. Okay, in my summary, I would suggest what Trump is trying to do is really going to spark a really big problem, and it's kind of like a yardstick to see a lot of protests because it's against the humanity and it's against is trying to really do the unthinkable, and the American people will not be so happy about that. You know, people are really getting so much worried about what's happening, and you know, this unrest is becoming so much of unkind, and it's really against their human rights. So that would be done by a president in power for such a big country like the United States. So here, in a short brief on my opinion, I believe Trump is going far ahead by the law as it allows him to do his work. And people are really becoming unrested, and they want Trump to either be kicked out of office or else something else is going to happen in America, and it's going to be a very dangerous crisis. That's my short analysis about that, so we can proceed with still what's happening. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement, agents were unable to move their vehicles and exited the car. One of the drivers who rammed the law enforcement vehicles armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Law enforcement was forced to deploy the weapons and fire defensive shots at an armed U.S. citizen, said. Now, look, if this comes to target the citizen of the country, what do you think really happens? And what do you think will come out of this confrontation to civilians that are not really armed? People get out of, the situation will escalate to get out of hand, and people do the unthinkable. People start rioting, and riots will extend to more cities. A city like, let's say in Chicago, where they say the unrest and where the forces are being deployed highly, is going to really go to more other states where more people have been a little kind of calm. So they will not really sit down back and see a lot of crisis happening to their own fellow citizens. So Trump really needs to change his ways, maybe needs to talk to his administrators and his advisors, and they see how they can get rid of this whole thing, and tensions really come down and the situations get to normal life. So we proceed here with our article of Judge Karen. She said the use of the military to quell unrest without the state of Oregon consenting risks the sovereignty of the state and others. adding that it's also inflamed tensions in the city and caused an increased protests. Of course, whatever's happening, when the military is deployed to quell the unrest, like let's say, example, in the states of Oregon, there was no consenting, and this is going to risk the sovereignty of the state and others. Yes, what is happening now? The army, like I earlier said before when I was introducing or starting starting this topic, I say the army should not be deployed to disperse the population or the people rioting. Remember, these civilians, they have no arms. So I think, to my opinion, Trump is really having something, maybe he's having a bias about one thing or the other, but I don't see anything why the army should be deployed in these states where there are no reports of people armed with heavily machine guns that are really going to cause some unrest to the state. That in my opinion, I think that's something that needs to be worked upon. So as we proceed, we say Emma ruled that the administration urged for the deployment risk blurring the line between civil and military federal power to detriment of this nation. While it's unclear whether troops have arrived in Chicago, and such deployment would likely be met with legal challenges. The city is the latest, many of them led by the Democrats, to be targeted by the controversial deployment of troops during Washington, Los Angeles, Memphis, and Portland. So, like we all know, President Donald Trump is Republican, and these two parties, Democrats and Republicans, have always been at loggerheads. So they are now trying to target the Democrat cities and suppress their freedom. So I think Trump is playing a very, very, very bad game that is going to cause a lot of problems. You know, Americans deserve their rights, and they have all rights to exercise everything they really need to do, as long as it doesn't go against the law. So the deployment of the military is really something that is against the law. That's what I could say about that. Yeah, here we go again. Chicago has seen an increase in process of immigration enforcement in the city, many of them happening outside the U.S. immigration and custom enforcement facilities, amid ongoing violent riots and lawlessness that local leaders like Governor Pritzker have refused to step in to quell. President Trump has authorized 300 national guardsmen to protect federal offices and assets. White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson said President Trump will not turn a blind eye to the lawless plague in American city. On Saturday, just before Trump authorized troops, the U.S. Border Patrol personnel shot a woman in Chicago after a troop of people rammed into cars into immigration enforcement vehicles. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, said in a statement the woman was armed. The statement says, "Now look, I want you to be very, 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 very critical when you come to analyze this situation, where it is said there was a protester, and a protester identified as a woman that was really armed, that she had a gun, and she drove a car and rammed into the vehicles belonging to the security." This is something that is not really so clear, and maybe they're trying to have an excuse about the procedures, about the more time they can buy to continue suppressing the people and denying them their rights to clearly come and state what is needed to be given them. They deserve their rights, and they deserve to be given the freedom of speech. So what my president, or the American president, the Iron Man Mr. President, saying is clearly not really good. Yes. And as we proceed, on Saturday, just before Trump authorized troops there, U.S. Border Patrol personnel shot a woman. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, sorry about that. The woman injuries were unclear. HS says she drove herself to a local hospital. Earlier this week, the president talked about his ongoing military deployment to U.S. cities while addressing high-ranking leaders across the military. He told military leaders he wants American cities used as training grounds for U.S. troops so they can combat the enemy from within and quell unrest. Now, look, imagine the whole president of a nation, America, as we know, is a superpower, giving a clear declaration and an order, because that sounds to be an order from the president, to go and use all the American cities used as training grounds for the U.S. troops to go and combat the enemy within. In my opinion, or as I can analyze this whole thing, there are no enemies within the state. There are no enemies within the state. I feel there's something that is a hidden agenda to really deploy these armies. Imagine America has many bases that are used as training grounds for the American army. So if you deploy these cities, or you really cordon the American cities that have a lot of military trainings, and you really want them to quell the unrest, what do you think is really going to happen? A lot is going to happen. People are really going to die instantly. Yeah, when the army uses a lot of force on them, they're not armed, they don't have guns. So this will be really a very big danger to the America, and I think a lot of people are going to be questioned about what's really happening. There are very places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one, instead of Democratic-led cities, including Chicago. He told that military leaders would be a major part for some of the people in this room. Trump has threatened to send troops to Chicago for near a month, starting crime and shooting in the city. Imagine sending troops. This is so scary to people of the city of Chicago and other cities where there are claims of unrest and more strikes of that kind. So this will make people lose their patience and attack the army. I believe so. A lot of bloodshed is going to happen there, and people are really going to close their offices, close their workplaces. No more work's going to be done, and this is also something that's going to affect the economy, because there will be no more money coming in. All the revenues, the resources that bring in a lot of money will be closed, will be shut. This is going to be a big danger. I suggest there should be done something very, 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 very critically undeniable to do what the president wants to be done. And then we go and proceed and say violent crime in Chicago has fallen significantly over the past 2 years. Between January and June, the homicide rate was down by a third compared with the same period last year, according to the Council of Crime Justice. But the overall levels in Chicago remain substantially higher than the average for many U.S. cities. There were at least 50 people shot, 8 fatally, over the Labor Day holiday weekend last month. Imagine 50 people being shot and 8 fatally injured on Labor holiday. That was last month. I don't believe this is exactly, they have the exact number of people who were shot. In my opinion, I believe more than 58 people suggested here were shot, and more must have even walked away with injuries and a number of recorded deaths, but it's not even written in any report here. So my people, my subscriber, I want you to come on our channel. You give your opinion and tell us exactly what you think is going to happen or is happening in the United States government, and give your opinions at large. So you come here, like a channel, support us, share, like, and subscribe. My name is Mukasa. Bless.